I'm not an airline person. I had no clue of how airlines run, and I'm like, the other side of the 50s in my age, and now to come to think of, changing your career completely and getting into it. So I still have my doubts whether I can do it or not. We define our existence, our career, our family around the piece of degree that we have. Maybe a lot of people will get offended by saying this, but I don't believe in that. I was never intelligent, and I still don't claim to be intelligent. I'm just very sincere and very hardworking. In a regular scenario, 10 से 12 supporters होंगे and 1 से 2 कोई naysayers भी होते हैं, right?
Correct.
हमारी energy उस पे ज़्यादा जाती है, and that kind of starts making your mind think, oh, I have disruptors in my life. How do I deal with it? You're just ignoring the majority of people. I was the first woman officer to get posted in Ladakh. I was during the beginning of Kargil war. So we had this, the air officer commanding, and I was the only woman in the entire room. And I'm not talking about the boardroom, I'm talking about a soldier's room. There are people who are stalwarts, have spent 35 years in defense, and they have only been used to the men around. So he would always walk into the room full of people. I say, "Good morning, gentlemen," and then suddenly there is one woman sitting. And Neelu. Like, why does he call me out every day? Good morning, gentlemen. And a lady. And I walked up to him and, "Sir, don't do this." Like, kya bolu fir? Just say good morning, officers. So it starts with that,
Hi, I'm Naiyya Saggi. I'm especially excited to introduce our first guest, Neelu Khatri. Neelu's had an incredibly inspiring journey. She was a wing commander in the IAF, in the Airforce. She has been a technology consultant at Honeywell. She has been an entrepreneur, and now she's the co-founder of Akasa Air. Neelu is also a single mother. So through the conversation that we have with her today, we're going to uncover a lot of nuances. What does it mean to transition through careers and through journeys with such ease? What does it mean to really get and win and lead in such male-dominated industries? And very importantly, what does it mean to be the single parent to 2 amazing boys? So without further ado, here's introducing Neelu. Neelu, first of all, it's such a pleasure having this conversation with you today. I don't know if you remember, but I remember our chat at St. Regis in, I think, every detail, because it was the most inspiring chat I'd had, and just to hear your journey was, I think, personally very inspiring. So I think when we were thinking about ki show par kis ko laye, right? Who are the top women entrepreneurs and leaders who are moms themselves, who can share so much of their life and so much inspiration with others, I immediately thought of you.
Oh,
so that's the honest truth.
No, it's my honor, Naiyya. And, I look up to you at such a young age, what you have done. So it's absolutely inspiring for me as well.
No, thank you. That's very kind, Neelu. But I'm going to dive right into it,
Sure.
Your journey's been bilkul hatke. I mean, I don't even know how to put it, right? When you look back, right, were there times in your childhood that maybe shaped you to, undergo this very hatke journey, this very different journey from maybe what your peers did?
Actually, it's a very interesting question. And now when I think about it, it probably did in some ways. So I come from Jabalpur, which is not a very big town. And, those days growing up when I was in school, and, we had a free environment to live. Luckily, my parents were pretty broad-minded, did not differentiate between me and my brother that much. And, so I did grow up with no boundaries kind of a mindset, not because they were very evolved. I think they were too busy making ends meet and stuff, so we were left on our own, and we could. So I think that kind of brought in that sense of, adventure, freedom, and, go the way where the wind blows. And that's how I have shaped my career. I've always been at the moment, whatever opportunity presented itself, I kind of, without, thinking too much about it and talking about my limitations. I mean, I'm an arts graduate. And in our days, there was no commerce, by the way. So it was either math science or bioscience or home science. I was bad at maths. I was not very good at studies. And this was decided when I was in class 8. There was no class 10. So, I mean, what do you do at that stage? You just hung up with the home science, and I hated cooking as well. So you have to start evolving yourself from that level. Then I understood the first thing was that I have to have very good language skills, very good general knowledge.
How did you get that thinking कि why it's so important? Why is GK so important? Why language skills are so important? कहाँ से आई ये सोच?
It's a funny story or an answer that I'll give. I think all of that came because I was trying to avoid getting married into a set शादी जो
Construct,
tray लेके जाते हैं and somebody likes or dislikes you. So I think all of that started with the fear of that situation in my life. I absolutely hated getting into that situation. So whatever I needed to do to avoid that situation, early on I realized that there were only two options that women had. You either become a bank clerk or you become a teacher. Those were a couple of options with my education that I had. And my mother would have been exceptionally proud if I had become a bank clerk in Allahabad Bank those days, which was next to my house. So I think it all stems from what do I need to do. So if you need to go out, you need to learn how to speak well. You need to have a general IQ. So all of this started coming from there. And then it was just like, one day I see this advertisement in the newspaper for women. Do you have it in you? Indian Airforce invites young dynamic women. I said, okay, I'm young, I'm dynamic. That's all I read. I didn't see any other thing there. I said, okay, why not? I should go. And my dad and mom were like 100% sure that she's going to fail. I was 49 kg or 44 kg probably of weight. So perception of Fauji was, well built and this and that and some authority in the personality, and I was none of that. ठीक है जाओ, fail हो जाओगे, आके शादी करा देंगे. So that fear of that made me pass. Put in your 100%. So I think then one thing led to the other, and I've just lived by the moment, I would say.
But that's amazing, and Neelu, I think you're one of the few people who so candidly said that fear led to ambition, and fear led to actually, maybe realizing that there are no boundaries for you. But the transitions themselves, right? I mean, I think as a woman who's trying to sort of also, go through her life and, make impact in along the way. How did you make the transitions? How do you take the decisions to make these transitions? These are big leaps. These are not small leaps. So how did you even think about those transitions?
Okay. So, a small thing that I always think of is, as women or as professionals, I think we think too much of whiteboarding. We used to whiteboardings, right? We think too much. That's one thing, which is good. But what I did in my life was I always took the worst case scenario. What if I did this? What can be the worst thing? And my worst case scenario was never that I couldn't live my life in the standards that I was living into. And if that was the answer, if it was below that I'm going to spoil my, current state of life or the welfare of my family, I'm not going to take chance on that. So that was my benchmark. If that is not shaking up, then I would just go for it. Then you have to have some faith in yourself.
Very interesting. So basically you said that the base case.
Absolutely.
And said, ये मेरा base case है. Now, इसके नीचे जाऊंगी तो फिर that's the worst case that can happen.
If that is not getting disturbed by my taking risk, then I'm fine.
And, Neelu, I think one thing that really resonated with me as a fellow mom and, as a younger mom, because my daughter's, of course, much younger than your children, you are a single mother.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that journey, because, here you are, a woman who's pretty much like shattered every glass ceiling, like dominated, very, very male dominated segments and sectors, and you're raising 2 children, right? Tell us a little bit about that journey and maybe anything, maybe some of the highest highs and the lowest lows in that journey.
So 2 things. I don't resonate with words like shattering.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I just think it's been a natural growth and everybody should actually look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because the moment you get these words like shattering and aggression, you are creating a hostile environment for yourself in your mind. Forget about other people, how other people take it. Take it as a cordial environment wherein you put in something and then you get it back. The more you put in, the more you get back, right? So there'll always be some naysayers in your life. But remember that there are more yes-sayers than a naysayer. You'll always find, it's not just me. I think every professional, whether it's a man or a woman or anybody, will feel that way, right? So that was one thing. The second was that when you think about what you want to do, we've always limited ourselves with the educational degrees that we have, right? So because I have studied this, I can't go into this situation. And I somehow I'm not a very big believer of what your degrees hold. And is that a defining factor for your limitation? Absolutely not. So I think that those couple of thoughts that I had was something that I learned about it very early in my life. Just because I don't know engineering, I can't work in an engineering company. No, I do. People do need. I mean, ultimately, it's all about understanding clients and their need. And if I'm able to articulate that better to my product team, then I don't need an engineering degree. And that's what I did in my previous company. Honeywell is a highly engineering company, product company, but and then there was a team of engineers, right? So I'm making use of my team, and I'm making use of my, I would say, empathy or the listening skills and translate into what the clients need. And that's all you needed to be successful there.
I do want to talk about this very important thing that you mentioned. Ki shattering the glass ceiling is not, the way to go about life maybe. Because I 100% agree with you. Agar aapko kuch banana hai, you have to take people along, right? But I think, when I talk to so many younger women, entrepreneurs, and even, established women in leadership roles, I think the biases वो face करती हैं, those are real biases sometimes. It might be unconscious, but they exist. And, as a result, I think क्या होता है कि, all of us are probably working 10x or 5x what we would need to if our gender was different. How do you think about that? And how would you advise whoever's watching this to really continue to have the determination, the resilience, but also, like, in a way, it's unfair, right? So how do you advise people to tackle these situations?
So first of all, इसमें दो तरह की चीज़ें हैं. One is आपका personal outlook क्या है, and then the organization that you're working with, how are they, what kind of policies they have. And Akasa Air, that was the beauty about us starting a organization from fresh. So while it's a new entrant and a fresh company that got formed, but none of the people in the company is, I would say, they're all very, very experienced people. So what happened was that we started from scratch by thinking, what are the policies that will enable women to work better? If you are trying to say that diversity 50% hona chahiye, so then you have to have those policies. So first of all, women should be supported with these policies by the organization, because you alone cannot win a war like that, right? You can't have an unfriendly policy and a very person who wants to be very ambitious and trying to win that battle on your own. That is one. Unconscious bias definitely exists. But somehow women by their DNA have this thing that, we tend to take a lot of it on our own when you can actually pick up a list of things that you need to do, whether it's your personal life or professional life, और उसमें से आप क्या किसी को delegate कर सकते हो. So I somehow feel that, women need to learn to delegate strongly. I'll give you a very small example. We were talking earlier. And this is a genuine advice to all women across, especially in your early 30s to late 30s, जब आपके पास सबसे ज़्यादा pressure होता है काम का, because that's your formative year on going into the next level of management, from a mid-level to upper or junior to mid, whatever. And that's also the time जब आपकी शादी हो रही है, you're planning your kids, you're planning your finances, and so much pressure around new relationships, new in-laws, and all of that happens, right? And in that bargain, we just in our zest to succeed in life and be the best mothers, they all come up together. So ये time होता है when you have to personally stay back, just sit back and think what are things that you can delegate, right? So one is get an exceptionally good support system. They could be your mother, father, in-laws, friends, husband, whatever. The other is staff, your people who work in your house, cleaning, and the gardener and the driver. And somehow हम लोग बहुत short-sighted होके काम करते हैं. We are haggling over salaries. Of course, at that stage, finances are important. It's good to save, etc. But those are not areas that you should be thinking too much about. Be little benevolent on that. It's a part of your personal CSR or that work that you want to go and do in NGO. Your house is your NGO right now. So focus there to take away a little bit of your own boj, so to say, and that goes on to make you a more productive and a happy person.
Neelu, we were chatting iske pehle, right? And you were sharing ki this is also possible, and you were talking about that point in time, when you were a young mother, you were not earning that much.
Correct.
Right? You said, and if I may quote the number, you
Absolutely.
said 9,000, 10,000
रुपए.
Right. And I think sometimes people say कि अरे delegate करने के लिए, staff होने के लिए माने बहुत privileged लोग का है.
ऐसा नहीं है.
Right? But tell us more about that. How did you manage and what did you do, which I think also maybe will be some beautiful examples of how you can ensure you have an amazing team at home as well.
Not just in the office.
Yes, not just in the office. I mean, can you give some very practical examples?
So I always say, office may get yourself surrounded by people who are better than you.
Right.
And it's actually true.
Right.
You must implement it. And the second is, at home, be surrounded by people who are your support. So I think it's not about your budgets or your level or money. It's all about mindset. So when you are going and hiring that helper with your kids, they ask an X salary, right? It's just X plus 10 is something that is still within your budget because that's why you're talking to that person.
Correct.
Right? So it's just that 10 or 15% that really makes the mark. And what does it mean? आप 2 dinner कम खाओगे बाहर या एक holiday कम लोगे. But imagine the impact that it creates on your life. I mean, in my life, any help that has ever joined me has really not left me. So I have a chauffeur that is like 18-year-old now with me. My housekeeper is about 17, 18-year-old. And these are people who, there's a joke in my house. When I was in the Airforce, वो Airforce का झंडा ऊपर करते थे. When I went to KPMG, everybody was wearing KPMG t-shirts.
So they also went with you in your journey.
फिर Honeywell का अब आकाशा की caps लगा के घूमते हैं.
Lovely.
So this is how you need to kind of color yourself
But they've also grown in that journey with you, right? You mentioned how
they enjoy that brand more than you. My housekeeper has gone around to say हम आकाशा से हैं.
But you also mentioned how some of them are also like their kids have actually been part of your extended family and you've ensured that you've watched out for them. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's such an important part. I mean, because then you're pretty much saying कि ये सिर्फ professional relationship नहीं है, माने आप घर के लोग हो. And like that is the way
I remember my kids when they were in school, and obviously I was not a mother who didn't believe in whooping the kids. They got a big thing in their back when they didn't perform well or they misbehaved with me. And the staff would be standing, Madam, bas karo, mat bolo usko.
Because they're part of your home.
They're part of that entire. So that's what you need to do. Build an ecosystem that supports you. And that does not need too much of rocket science. That does not need the business case. That does not need. But the value that you get out of that for you to perform better is something that women do not understand.
And the theme that I'm seeing consistently in this conversation, and I absolutely love it, is take people along.
Absolutely.
Build bridges.
That's your CSR activity.
Yeah.
I mean, I do just that. If I can, change the life of a daughter of the Masoor who comes to my mother, I think I feel more accomplished than any of the other work that I would do.
So Neelu, when I look at you today, right, and I talk to you, you're so inspiring, you're so upbeat, you're so optimistic, right? And you're so positive. There must have been periods in your life when you really doubted yourself. I mean, I know it has not been easy, the journey you've been on personally, professionally, right? Like, can you tell us very, as transparently as you can, about maybe some of your toughest moments when you questioned yourself, right? And you basically said, what am I doing? And you bounced back after it, and what led you to bounce back? Because there are lots of women who are going to be watching this, and men, by the way, who will look at you and say, if she can do it now, if she went through this period and she bounced back from this to here, ho sakta hai main bhi kar paun.
There have been times wherein I was missing into many situations in life, and I could see the kids, from their face and it just kills your heart. And and then there's sometimes some financial difficulties, and and you think, oh, what am I doing, so there have been many incidents like that. So 2-3 things जो help करता है इस situation में. Don't get overwhelmed. So there are, of course, you can't say that don't get emotional. Get emotional, cry. There's nothing wrong in crying. Nothing wrong in showcasing your emotions. If it happened public, fine. It's all right. Everybody has these days, men crying is considered to be brave, right, in public.
Yeah.
So women crying is equally brave,
Yeah.
right? Because we also kick ourselves one day agar do aansu nikal gaye, and consider yourself human. So first thing is always respect that you are a human being, और एक हमारी भी boundaries है, and today we could not, we could not perform the way we wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's all right. So stop over kicking yourself on that. That's one of the first thing, because I've been through that, and like ठीक है यार, कल निकल गया, this too shall pass. The second thing is be honest and talk to people, whether it's professional group or your family. We think कि हमारा बच्चा 9 साल का है, वो क्या समझेगा. ऐसा नहीं होता है. Kids understand that. And my kids have rooted for me more than anybody else in the world. They want me to be, I don't know what, the Ranui of the world type. वो तो ऐसा behave करेंगे, as if my mother is going to just go and conquer the world.
Correct. And rightly so.
Rightly
our
so,
kids are,
they are our biggest supporters.
Yeah.
So if you talk to them that this is what mama is facing today, and I have been very honest with them.
Yeah.
So I have not led a life in which I couldn't afford to, because being a single parent, you can't, you don't have another person to share so you end up. So I think I shared, and it worked very big in my favor, because my kids understood my pain. They understood the challenges that I was facing in my work. So it's not that that you're taking care of them. It was I made them take care of me too from a very young age. So they understood my ambition. They understood my with what situation I was in, and they're like, "Mama, आप ऐसे क्यों नहीं करते हो?" So one of the time I remember, my younger one was like 5 or 4 year old. I remember we were sitting on a dining table, and he says, "Mama, आप तो इतने बड़े ऑफिस में काम करते हो." तो I said, हाँ. तो वहाँ पर तो बहुत सारे men हैं जिनके पास बड़े बड़े वो positions और वो होते हैं. हाँ, मम्मा आप उससे जाके शादी कर लो. I'm like, okay. I thought maybe he's missing a male figure. At the end of the day, I asked him, क्यों? मम्मा आपके पास एक कार है, उसके पास कार हो जाएगी, हमारे पास 2 कारें होंगी. So it was absolutely nothing to do with him missing anybody in life. It's just that so kids have a very weird way of thinking. They are very innocent, So I think we just kind of overthink about all these things, and we think that they don't empathize, but they do in their own way, in whatever way. So whatever little support you can get from them, and they ease out. So they knew that ki mama call mein hai. We had a little cat, and even the cat was taught not to meow when mama is on call.
Oh God, this is exactly my life right now, Neelu. I have to tell you this.
Exactly.
Because I think you're so right in saying that Arya, my 4.5-year-old, she insists she's 4.5. They know it.
They miraculously know it. उनको समझ आता है कि ये मम्मा का ये crucial time है, and right now I can bug her, I can eat her head. But right now I can't.
Correct.
So ये सब चीजें ना, and that comes with sharing.
Yeah. And also being, I think what you said is extremely important. Sharing, but also sharing your ambitions.
Genuinely.
And also sharing your ambitions, Neelu, because I think you mentioned this, and I completely hear you there.
This is an important
part of. But Neelu, I want to now dive into, and I was sharing this picture with my team when I was basically saying we must get Neelu onto this, which is a picture of you when you go to the Akasa site, right? And you go to the leadership team, and there's a picture of, I think, 15, 20 people?
8-9 people.
8-9 people, sorry. But like, basically all men, and there's you in the middle, in this gorgeous outfit. And I'm like, this is Neelu, right? And I think that picture says a lot. Without, I think, you even realizing it said so much to people like us, but it says a lot, right? When you're working in such traditionally male-dominated industries, and I know you've said that you've been limitless, you've not set boundaries for yourself, but there are many times that maybe you've come across resistance to your ambitions, right? You've come across pushes to you as Neelu, and a lot of it is maybe because of your gender and your own personal ambition for yourself. How do you deal with it? And how do you keep on being so brave?
So what happens is, हमारे पास normally life में क्या होता है, in a regular scenario 10 से 12 supporters होंगे and 1 से 2 कोई नए शेयर्स भी होते हैं, right?
Correct.
हमारी एनर्जी उस पे ज़्यादा जाती है, and that kind of starts making your mind think, oh, I have, disruptors in my life. How do I deal with it? You're just ignoring the majority of people, 90%. And ये मैं नहीं मान सकती कि कोई बोलेगा कि नहीं हमारी लाइफ में 90% नो बोल रहे हैं और 20%. Maybe there are few people. Maybe when if you are coming from a very very rural place, वहाँ पर भी आपको बहुत सारे supporters मिलेंगे. Maybe you're coming from some really extreme situation. Maybe you had 90% of people who were naysayers in your life. But majority of us who are watching this video, think about your life कि मेरी लाइफ में कौन कौन ऐसे लोग हैं जो मुझे सपोर्ट नहीं करते हैं, विज़ कौन मुझे सपोर्ट करता है. And your genuine and honest answer will be that a big number are people who you support and some numbers are people who they don't support you. That is a way of life even in your real life. Forget about professional world. So what do you cry for, or what do you want to delve your energy from?
Correct.
So focus on the bucket who are your supporters, talk to them, create a supportive environment through them, get your ideas and everything run through them. And sometimes it's good to have people who are your critics or harsh critics or naysayers, and it's okay because many times you learn a lot from them. My first boss in the corporate world was my biggest critic, and today when I look back, the things that I learned when he was criticizing me and bashing me up are some of the best learnings I've had.
Yeah.
So you just change your outlook of life. This is not, we are living a good life. You are here to perform good. You want to get your ambitions. Let's not focus on, barging into people, trying to win a battle. This is not a battle to be won,
Yeah.
That's how I look at life.
Yeah. There are times, and you mentioned this very beautifully, Neelu. आपने बोला कि life ऐसे जियो कि आपको you don't realize the boundaries, सीमास. And also the important thing you said is that you don't also seek validation.
Yes.
Now ये बहुत ज़रूरी point है, because I think as human beings, but I think a lot of us as women in particular, we are taught up being told, be a good girl, be nice, this is how you deal with guests, this is how you deal with family, So we are constantly indoctrinated almost or socialized into seeking validation in our lives. How do you advise, maybe women like us, right? How do you be so free that you don't need that validation? How do you do it?
So it's actually true. So I think as DNA, women need more validation than men. I think it's just the way we are built in, right? The other part of the story is that you're looking for validation only when you are very underconfident most of the time, right? A confidence level build up करने के लिए for a professional person or even a non-professional person in your regular life, that is something that women have to invest into yourself. Whether you need an outside support for counseling, or go talk to people who are inspiring you. Again, I always go back to this 90-10 or 80-20 theory that I have. The more you invest your time in your 80, there are times when I have had really nice mentors in my life, and those mentors were not appointed mentors. They were just other women who had done well and they took care of me, right? Whether it was just offloading your thoughts and fears and ideas. Find those anchors in your life. They really work miracle. We actually do not understand the value of that kind of counseling, official or unofficial. That is one. The second part is that validation, need is also when you are a little confused in life, right? So those thinking, these are some of the root cause of what you don't know, right? वैलिडेशन आपको तभी चाहिए होता है जब आपके दिमाग में क्लैरिटी नहीं है, यू आर लिटिल कंफ्यूज, यू डोंट हैव इनफ डेटा सो टू से, राइट? सो यू हैव टू नो व्हाट इज दिस इनवैलिडेशन, हो क्यों रहा है मुझे, मतलब व्हाई डू आई नीड दिस वैलिडेशन. सो ये थोड़ा सा ना, गेट अ गुड group of friends and you know who you can sit down and talk to. The last part on this one is, I still think, because you know I'm a dinosaur in the professional world, 30 years of experience. So I've experienced in my first year of life, or first 5 years of my life, and now I see that environment of work to now, right? I think I'm humongously lucky that right now people are talking about this. People are talking about diversity. Boards are taking women. I mean, Akasa, you talked about that picture. I mean, I still remember how everybody pampered me and made me stand in the center. Because that mindset that our boards have now is changed. Because of, again, whether it's the investors' policy or the global mindset that is coming up, all this is so good. So I feel very good about this, that, you know, I mean, our CEO, Mr. Vinay Dubey, you have to meet him to talk about all of these core values, and what we think as core values, we are able to implement it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people find, you know, supporters and believers and counselors. You will find it at any level. आपको, there are times when even your you know, house helps have been there to talk to you कि मैडम आज आप बहुत सैड लग रहे हो, क्या हुआ, आओ मैं आपको मालिश कर दूं. And while she's doing that, she'll talk to you.
And that's therapy in a very, very meaningful way. At that point in time.
You need that. And
you need the support.
Don't think that it's not needed. You need it, go for it.
Yeah. I think you're so right. I think having people looking out for people who are allies, right? Who are the yes-sayers to you, who are there for you. You know, before I dive in my last question, I just want to build on this whole point you said about investing in yourself and practices. Someone yesterday had told me that how important leadership coaching has been for her.
Yeah.
Right? What are the practices that you'd advise, let's say, women who are, and mums in particular, right, who are maybe thinking about rejoining or starting off their entrepreneurial journey or leadership journey, right? What are the best practices you think they should follow ताकि they can play to potential?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are few things that are must to do's.
Right.
So one of them is, do you think you have lost your skill set or has been left behind because there is some new technology that has come up, there is some new thought process or marketing strategies or whatever else you may have lost on, right? So one is, even while you are a mom, there is some me time. So in your mind, don't, you know, retire yourself that, oh, I'm out of work. Don't do that. That's one thing that helps generally to keep in touch, at least IQ level wise, thought process wise, awareness level wise. Do that, continue doing that. You may not be working, you may not be getting paid, do it as your hobby whenever you get time. I mean, if you're pregnant and you're doing that, your child will be more intelligent, right? So that is one. The second part is, जब हम वापस आते हैं काम join करने के लिए workforce में, एक तो because हम लोग बहुत low esteem से आते हैं, and always remember, low esteem typically you know, results into aggression. So in your mind, you're building this big thing about, oh, I've come back now. वो मेरे बारे में ऐसा सोच रहा होगा, वो मेरे बारे में ऐसा सोच रही होगी, इसलिए मुझे ये project नहीं मिल रहा because मैं वापस आई हूँ, blah blah blah. So एक थोड़ा ना एक self imagination होता है. I'm not saying that there is no bias. I absolutely don't mean to say that. I mean, unconscious bias in whatever form exists everywhere. I think it will take millions of years to get that out. But at the same time, I think we over-imagine it also. And therefore, we are overtly aggressive, making our case a little more difficult. I mean, this is how I did it, you know, for both my kids and when I was back from pregnancy leaves, was that, you know, just merge in the environment, be a fly on the wall for some time, listen to what's happening around, observe, and start then, you know, contributing to whatever you can do, right? And yes, it will take some time, but in a little while, people see your, you know, output.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. Don't overthink. Of course, the other part is that the organizations have to really think hard on this. So I mean, like when we were forming policies in Akasa Air, these were one things that we just said, you know, these are things that paternity leave has to be given, maternity leave has to be given as per this thing, and then there is a, you know, when women come back, this is how we will follow, and crash facility. So of course organizations have to do, but again, as I say, we are extremely lucky. When I look at my first years, 5 years or 6 years of 10 years of my life, none of these talks were there. So I think I'm living in a very you know, fortunate environment. Things needs to be bettered, of course, yes, both from organization's perspective, policy perspective, those will continue going. But whatever you have as your policy, take advantage of that. Go talk to your HR, go talk to your manager. A lot of things get sorted out कि अगर आप सिर्फ जाके बात करके बता दो उनसे, you know, sometimes हम लोग थोड़ा ना
hold ourselves back on that.
कि you know, I can't go talk about these things. No, talk about it. Talk about your personal challenges. You don't have to share your sob stories to anywhere. Nobody wants that. But at least say, these are my 2 or 3 challenges, but this is what I can do. And focus on that.
No, I think that's so important because baat karne se hi baat banti hai, right? I think that's one piece. I think that's really important that you mentioned. So Neelu, you know, like a consistent theme in all my conversations with you have been be limitless, right? And we've said this so many times in this conversation. But maybe if you can give like one specific example where you didn't let any boundaries define your ambition for yourself or for what you could do. I mean, anything very, very specific as an example, like right from the Airforce to Airlines today.
Okay.
In this beautiful journey.
Okay. So first of all, ये ना बहुत thoughtful way में नहीं आया कि I am limitless. Even like I have my doubts, I am highly underconfident many times. So वो नहीं आता है कि I am limitless and I can do anything. That thought, at least in my head, it's not there, right? But I think जिस चीज़ ने मुझे help किया है, that has been was go with the flow and contribute what you can to team. So I've been a huge team person, right? And that's what happened. So how I got involved with, you know, Akasa team. I'm not an airline person. I had no clue of how airlines run. And I'm like, you know, the other side of the 50s in my age. And now to come to think of, you know, changing your career completely and getting into it. Obviously, I have my doubts. I still have my doubts whether I can do it or not. But 2-3 things helped. So one is, जब आप टीम में होते हो तो सब लोग बैठ के बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? एंड वी आर स्ट्रैटेजाइजिंग. सो इन दोज डेज व्हेन वी वर क्रिएटिंग बिजनेस प्लान, एंड Vinay, and you know, with his entire intelligence on, you know, he has a great 30 years of global experience of setting up an airline, right? Running an airline. So obviously he knew what he was doing. So one, have faith in the team that you are sitting with, right? So I was kind of just would be there in the calls that we started having weekly, bi-weekly, whatever. And then the second is, within that, what is it that I can do? ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि आप किसी ग्रुप में बैठे हो and there is nothing that you can do or contribute to your strengths. So I started picking up the things that I think I could have done or I can do better. So वो धीरे धीरे कर करके, and then one day you realize you've become a valuable team member as well. There are things that cannot move because of you. There are things that people are dependent कि अच्छा ये, you know, ये portion नीलू का है. So I think a lot of it comes with a very good teamwork. I mean, nothing happens without a good team. All of you down there, you know, people around you are people who make things happen. No one person can create a company. No one individual can do a task. Very true to our own lives, right? So that's the only mantra I followed. And then once, you know, the company was formed, and then what happens is people gain your trust. They know that, okay, you're a sincere person. You will deliver on what is needed, what is given to you. And in my case, you know, Vinay was completely, I mean, he had more trust in me than me having in myself. And he said, you know, Neelu, would you be okay to start getting into the operations? I'm like, I don't know how to do it. You know, so he's like, but there's nothing you can't do. So I think सबकी life में ऐसे लोग होते हैं. And just believe in yourself. At that moment, I said, okay, I'll believe in what you're saying. And I picked up my baggage. And I came to Mumbai. This is the first time I'm living in Mumbai. Different life, different world. But it just stems from the fact that have a little open mind. Go dive into situations where you think you are uncomfortable. Again, going back to the same theory of what worst can happen.
Yeah.
If you can deal with that, go for it.
Go for it.
If you think that's going to shake up your foundation, don't do it.
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting, and I think I couldn't agree more with you on the whole team point, by the way, because I mean, I think all of us and everything we're building is all.
I mean, you've set up such a wonderful brand, and you can't do it without on your own.
100%.
You have to have people who support you and who believe in that, thinking more than you believe yourself.
Yes, and believe in you more than you believe in yourself. So Neelu, just carrying over from your career journey and your career trajectory, right? Akasa kaise hua? Like, how did that happen? Because I remember you'd mentioned the Airforce, you mentioned Honeywell, then you were an entrepreneur of your own consulting firm in the middle, and Akasa happened. How did that transition happen? Kya hua tha?
So our CEO of Akasa Air, Mr. Vinay Dubey, as I said, he comes with a legendary experience of being in the airline industry for a very long time. So obviously when he was thinking of launching Akasa Air, there were few members that he had brought in together, and they were talking about how do you do this. And I have known him when I was in my previous company, and he was the CEO for Jet Airways. And so obviously there was a huge amount of respect I had for him, and that goes into power of building relationship with different people, and you continue those relationships irrespective of what you do. And I had kept in touch with him, so he kind of happens to say, I'm going to do this, and this is where I'm a little stuck on the documentation part and applying for licenses to start the airlines. And I'm like, oh, this part I can do. So I just jump in with that little input to say, I'm in Delhi and this is what I can do. And for me it was a big learning experience. So for me one thing has been very clear कि मुझे जहाँ कुछ समझ आ जाता है काम और जो मुझे लगता है कि यार I can do this, I volunteer all the time to anybody. I mean, forget about employer or group of people. I'll just do it with anybody. I enjoy doing that. So from that perspective, I am a high energy individual. So I just started with that. And then few months later, we realized that was a humongous task. Thousands and millions of documents had to be filled up. So then I found myself in the middle of doing all that project management. And then ultimately you come to a stage wherein I had so much of learning about airlines during that 6, 7, 8 months time. And then people realize your sincerity, your expertise, delivery on what you can do. So I think it all started from there. And one day I find myself in the middle of this, dashing professionals with such historical experience. Our chief commercial officer, our marketing officer, Belson, and all of these. And I consider myself hugely lucky. That I've been part of this group. It's an absolutely management-run company with each one of them such deep experts into their areas. So, that's how I...
But arguably you created the luck for yourself, Neelu, right? I mean, because, see, you invested in those relationships. People, you have identified allies early on. You identified your areas of where you could immediately add value, right? Yes. And I think all of this actually starts a cycle of luck. Right?
And an open mind.
And an open mind.
What worse can go wrong? I keep saying this.
Yeah.
What worse can go wrong with this? Yeah. If it is nothing, then just go for it.
Neelu, many times when we talk to the mothers that we do, right? As fellow mothers ourselves, right? We sometimes think ki maa banne ke baad, like career, ambition, full stop. Right? And it's not. We know it. But what advice would you give to mothers who are tuning in or women who are tuning in and saying ki it's not a full stop, or even men who are tuning in, by the way, and saying ki it's not a full stop. It's actually just a very natural part of who you are and to embrace it. Yes. I mean, any specific example on how you've advised other, mentees that you have on how to deal with this stage in life?
So first of all, ये जो fear होता है हमारे दिमाग में, ये बहुत real है, right? Because you have a new life that you're responsible for, and वो इतना vulnerable, you know, and kids are so vulnerable, and you're going through a new feeling of being a new mom and a new dad. So obviously everything else is not important. So वो and I think by DNA, Indian moms, they think we are responsible to take care of them. So obviously I have to take a back seat. So those things are very real. So it's not that you have to feel very guilty about thinking that way. It's a very natural and a real thing. I mean, in my life, I've been a very passionate motorcycle biker, you know, and when my
I'm loving these layers that are coming out about you, by the way,
and
can
no,
I just say?
So my kids were like, Mom, don't do that. They thought कि अगर ये bike चलाएगी तो मर जाएगी, you know, like Mom, don't do this. We don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I gave up that, you know.
You did?
I did. For a very long time, I gave up until my kids were grown up. And now I'm occasional. So these fears are real, right? These fears are real. You have to respect that. So again, you know, don't be unnecessarily harsh on yourself when you have these fears. They are real. You have to be empathetic to yourself. That's the first thing you need to do. Know that, oh, you know, there's a girl, she has 1 or 2 kids, she has this job, she has this ex-family situation. How much will you take? So you don't have to judge yourself on that, right? So understand and observe that. What I do all the time is, during the day or weeks that are tough in this situation, take yourself out of the situation and just review your life as an objective person, you know, and give it that okay, you know, it's okay to have that fear, it's okay to have this kind of environment, and then go back to what support you can get either from the office. And I keep going to the same example. Find your support group in office, in family, in your, you know, support system through whatever, and then start taking this. Genuinely, you know, it's a tough time. As I say, you know, 30s and 40s का जो time होता है women का, it's tough from all angles. Your family is complicated, you know, kids are coming in, your career is, you know, different levels that you have to cross. And it is something that you have to, you know, but don't get overwhelmed by it. Some days are good, some days are bad. You do that. There's some joyful days, very, very joyful days, you know, having a family. I'm a big believer of kids. And I've enjoyed my boys when they were small, and we've had some really funny stories and incidents that I can now think of when there were difficult days and we turned them. So I remember this one incident when, you know, I had to go for this big event or a, you know, high level dinner. It was the Taj at Delhi, and the kids had their exams and all of that, and फटाफट पढ़ाई करवाओ जल्दी. Like, what do I do? The housekeeper is not there. So I told these boys, I said, मम्मा के लिए ये वाला dinner बहुत ज़रूरी है. So what do I do? मम्मा हम भी चलते हैं. So my older son comes up with the idea, हम चलते हैं, आप अपना dinner करो. Can you pay for our dinner in that hotel?
So they had dinner in the hotel?
So my son said, अगर आपके पास इतने पैसे हैं कि आप हमारा dinner का पैसा दे सकते हो, because they knew my dinner was sponsored by the company, right?
Yeah.
मम्मा हम खा सकते हैं खाना? Of course, yes. Like, okay, चलो. So here is this big table. I'm sitting with all these big CEOs, and there are those little toddlers sitting there in the corner.
Amazing. They were sitting in the
same
room.
hotel, but I told them, you don't know me and I'm not your mom. And those rules were adhered to throughout the evening. Those 2 kids are sitting, and वहाँ से वो इशारे में मुझे बोल रहे हैं, can I order clams? I mean, they broke my bank balance that night.
They made the most of it. How old were they at that point in time?
I think my older one was 10 or 11, younger one was 5 or 6.
Very.
वहाँ बैठ के वो उन लोग वो खा रहे हैं, तोड़ रहे हैं, खा रहे हैं, and I can see they were ordering the most expensive dishes. There were no WhatsApp those days. And we had a very happy evening. You know, what could have been such a stressful.
Correct.
And thinking कि यार मैं इनको कहाँ छोड़ूं.
And a trade-off, but again in your characteristic style, Neelu, you took it along.
My sons remember some of the few incidents. When I was in defense, I was part of the Republic Day ceremony organizing. So I was the organizing committee. Now it's a national scale level thing, right? एंड नाउ दिसंबर का महीना है, ठंड बहुत ज़्यादा है उस समय, एंड वो बच्चों को कहाँ घर पे, रात के 2 बजे हम निकलते थे, यू नो, बिकॉज परेड स्टार्ट्स 6-7 AM. बिफोर दैट यू हैव टू लाइन अप एवरीबडी. इमेजिन इन चार्ज ऑफ दैट एंटायर नेशनल project. And my son's biggest memories when he went to interview for his job was that I would put him into a coat parka, put him in front of a tractor which would pull the aircrafts to take them to Rajpath, and from there it will go for the parade. He would sit there and go 2 AM or 3 AMs. Those are things that have formed him as a person. And what did I do? Because I could not leave, I just picked him up, you know. And you know, there are few supporters you will always find in every situation. And I found mine everywhere.
I love this. And I love these stories. See, finally the stories are coming out, Neelu. We need more of these stories told and to be shared. You know, I'm going to come to, now the boys are all grown up.
Yes.
They are in college or they're working?
My younger one just graduated and my older one is working.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he works for Microsoft.
Oh, wow.
In
okay.
Seattle.
In Seattle itself. Okay. So now it's back to Neelu again, right? And that's actually my last question, which is, what's next for Neelu?
Learn more about operations of an airline.
Yeah.
You know, I'm new in the job, obviously.
Yeah.
1 year in the job, but it's a new job for me. Yeah. And I really want to be into it and learn more and more. I mean, I don't see myself retiring for a very long time right now. So I really want to better myself into what I'm doing.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's amazing that you're sort of always in learner mode. You're so humble about like wanting to learn more. And I think you're kind of saying that is your primary ambition.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
On a personal front, what's next for Neelu?
Oh, I want to get back to my biking,
yeah,
which I have slowly started getting into.
Yeah.
So that way Mumbai is a good place to be. I've made some good friends who bike around. I want to go back to my hiking days and travel.
Yeah.
I mean, travel had taken a backseat when kids were growing up and they went into the schools.
Yeah.
And those were family holidays. I'm more of a natural traveler. I like treks, etc. So that's something that I really look forward to.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So from one milestone to the other, basically, both professionally and personally.
My own to-do list now comes
your own
in.
to-do list.
As my younger son says, Mama, ab to 16 ke lagte ho ab. You know, because there's no once the and women look at me, you know, you will be at my stage someday. So enjoy your kids when they're growing up. Don't think too much about your limitations. And, you know, the day you are back into your empty nest syndrome, you can start concentrating on yourself. So all goods and bad times come in and go.
Yeah. So Neelu, we're going to go on to our next segment, which is called Never Have I Ever. It's a very fun segment, very chill. But you have to promise me to be honest.
Sure.
That's the only request I have of you.
I'm nothing
but honest. That's true. Never have I ever felt like motherhood made me fall back in my career.
Oh, that's easy. All the time.
You have felt?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Never have I ever doubted that I can't do it all as a single mom.
Okay. I think I have doubted myself a lot. Yeah.
Never have I ever had mom guilt when I missed my kids' important milestones.
All the time.
I think these questions need to reframe them.
All the time.
Never have I ever been an only woman in a room full of men.
Oh, all the time. I'll give you a very hilarious example. I was the first woman officer to get posted in Ladakh. I was during the beginning of Kargil war. So we had this, the air officer commanding, and I was the only woman in the entire room. And I'm not talking about the boardroom, I'm talking about a soldier's room, right? So, and you know, these are people who have not seen senior officers under them who are women. Yeah. They are people who are stalwarts, have spent 35 years in defense, and you know, they have only been used to the men around. So he would always walk into the room full of people. I say, "Good morning, you know, gentlemen," and then suddenly there is one woman sitting. And Neelu, why does he call me out every day? Good morning, gentlemen, and a lady. Good morning, gentlemen, and Neelu. And like I walked up to him and sir, don't do this. Like, kya bolu fir? Just say good morning, officers. So it starts with that, you know.
I love that example. Can I just tell you? I love that example. And the last question, never have I ever failed a subject in school.
Always.
Huh.
Always. Failed many times. I've been a failure throughout. School mein to, until I was 15-year-old, I was most of the time failing. To come to think of it, I think we define our existence, our career, our family around the piece of degree that we have. But I don't believe in that. Don't limit yourself with that.
I love it. So we've been doing a bunch of other amazing conversations with amazing entrepreneurs who happen to be mums, right? And I think it's so interesting because a lot of these conversations have also said that they were terrible students in school. And I was too, right? So good, so there's hope out there.
I was never intelligent, and I still don't claim to be intelligent. I'm just very sincere and very hardworking.
Yeah. Amazing, and that means there's hope at the end of the tunnel for all those watching in who were probably terrible students, are probably terrible students, or probably have terrible students with the kids.
School mein, hamari principal ne, when I became an officer, she invited me in the morning gathering. But how she presented me there was कि arts के students भी कुछ कर सकते हैं. And I was like, I don't know whether I'm being honored or not.
But see, that is life, right? That is the fun of these journeys. And
but this is how things are. So follow your instincts. Follow what brings joy to you.
Yeah. On that note, I mean, Neelu, it's been absolutely fantastic. I just want to ask you for one message. You want to leave all the women, the mums, the men watching this.
Do what you want to do and what brings you happiness. No use chasing dreams that you don't believe into. आप क्या कर रहे हो, क्यों कर रहे हो, किसके लिए कर रहे हो? Pause, think, try to get an answer, and if that answer is giving you happiness, go for it. बहुत सारे लोग एक जॉब ले लेते हैं या कुछ काम करते हैं जिसमें उनको खुशी नहीं मिल रही है बट कर रहे हैं, and they think यार चलने दो लाइफ को. There is only one life. Do what really gives you pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure and extremely inspiring. I've had goosebumps through many of your answers. So thank you so much for sharing.
From you, and I'm a big fan of you, Naiyya. At such a young age, you're just raring to go into so many directions. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So Neelu, this is a special hamper that our team at the momsco has put together specially for you.
I know you've created a beautiful brand.
Thank you, Neelu.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for joining me on this amazing, I think very, very goosebumpy episode with Neelu. We have more amazing conversations come up with top entrepreneurs in India who happen to be mums. So thank you and stay tuned to the Momsco Mompreneur Legends.